Whispers by the river. Leela lived in a small town by the river. Every morning, she woke up early, prepared fresh coffee, and opened her cafe called Quiet Hearts. The cafe was special. It stood on an old wooden bridge, the kind that creaked softly underfoot. The river below whispered as it flowed, carrying leaves and memories with it. Leela loved her cafe. It was simple, just a few tables and chairs, but it was enough. People came here to escape their busy lives. They sat on the bridge, looking at the water, thinking about life. Leela watched them from behind the counter. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. One day, a new customer came. He was tall, with dark hair and tired eyes. He walked slowly, as if carrying something heavy. He sat at the corner table, far from everyone else. He didn't order anything, just stared at the river. Leela noticed him, but didn't say a word. The man came back the next day, and the day after that. Each time, he sat at the same table, always quiet. He didn't speak to anyone. He didn't even look at the menu. Leela began to wonder about him. Who was he? Why did he look so sad? She wanted to ask, but she didn't. Instead, she left a cup of coffee on his table, a small gift. The man looked at the coffee, then at Leela. He gave her a small nod, but his eyes were still sad. He didn't drink the coffee. He just sat there, lost in thought. After he left, Leela found a note on the table. It was short.
Thank you, but I don't drink coffee.
The next day, Leela left a cup of tea instead. Days turned into weeks. The man came to the cafe every day. He still didn't speak, but he started to drink the tea Leela made for him. Sometimes she left a small note on the table.
The river is calm today. Try the lemon tea. It's my favorite.
He began to reply.
The river reminds me of my wife. Thank you. The tea is good.
Through these small notes, Leela learned his name. He was Ethan. He used to live in a big city, but now he had returned to this town. He didn't say why. Leela didn't ask. Ethan also learned about Leela. She had grown up here, on the edge of the river. Her cafe was her world, a place of peace. Though they hardly spoke, a quiet connection grew between them. One rainy afternoon, Ethan stayed longer than usual. The cafe was empty, except for him and Leela. She sat at a table nearby, sipping her tea.
I lost her.
Ethan said suddenly. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. Leela looked at him, surprised. It was the first time he had spoken more than a few words.
My wife. She was everything to me. She died in a car accident.
Leela didn't know what to say. She simply nodded, letting him speak.
I came back here because this town was her favorite place.
He said.
But now it feels so empty.
Leela wanted to comfort him, but words felt too small. Instead, she placed a fresh cup of tea on the table and sat quietly with him. Sometimes silence said more than words. As the days passed, Ethan began to open up more. He told Leela about Clara, his wife. She had loved nature, books, and quiet places like the cafe. Leela listened. sharing little pieces of her own story. She had once loved someone too, but he had left her, unable to face his own struggles. Since then, Leela had chosen a simple life, free from deep attachments. But something about Ethan felt different. His sadness mirrored her own, like two broken hearts finding a way to heal together. One evening, as the sun set over the river, Ethan looked at Leela and said,
Thank you. You remind me that there is still kindness in the world.
Leela smiled softly. For the first time in years, her heart felt lighter. The seasons began to change. The golden leaves of autumn fell gently into the river, creating ripples that danced in the sunlight. Ethan kept coming to the cafe, and Leela found herself looking forward to his quiet presence. One day, she left a small flower on his table next to the tea. It was a simple wildflower, delicate but strong. Ethan picked it up and turned it in his fingers, a faint smile touching his lips.
You're thoughtful.
He said softly. Leela shrugged.
Flowers make people feel less alone.
Ethan placed the flower inside his notebook, pressing it between the pages.
Thank you.
He said.
I think Clara would have liked this place.
The mention of Clara no longer brought the heavy silence it once did. Leela noticed that Ethan's eyes, though still sad, carried a small glimmer of peace. One morning, a notice appeared near the cafe. The old wooden bridge was scheduled for repairs. The cafe would have to close for a while, and Leela wasn't sure what to do. When Ethan came in that day, he saw the worry in her eyes.
What's wrong?
He asked.
They're fixing the bridge.
Leela explained.
I'll have to close the cafe for a few weeks.
Ethan hesitated, then said,
I can help. I used to work with my hands a lot. Maybe I could make it easier for you.
Leela smiled at him.
That would mean a lot. Thank you.
For the next few weeks, Ethan and Leela worked together to pack up the cafe and prepare for the repairs. They moved furniture, cleaned shelves, and even repainted the walls. As they worked side by side, their connection grew deeper. Ethan began to laugh at Leela's dry humor, and Leela noticed the way Ethan's presence made the cafe feel warmer. One rainy afternoon, while they were sorting through old boxes, Ethan found a photograph tucked inside a drawer. It showed a younger Leela standing beside a man. She was smiling, but her eyes looked distant.
Who's this?
Ethan asked gently. Leela hesitated before answering.
His name was Mark. We were together for a few years. He left when I needed him most.
Ethan looked at her, waiting for her to continue.
I was sick.
Leela said, her voice quiet.
Nothing serious, but it scared him. He couldn't handle the thought of losing me, so he left instead.
Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of her words.
I'm sorry.
He said.
It's in the past.
Leela replied, but her hands trembled slightly as she placed the photograph back in the box. Later that evening, as they sat together on the bridge, Ethan said,
You're stronger than you think, Leela.
She looked at him, her heart full but unable to speak. The bridge repairs brought unexpected changes. Workers uncovered an old iron plaque beneath the wooden beams, engraved with the words, "May this bridge carry your burdens and bring you peace." Leela and Ethan stood together, looking at the plaque.
It's fitting.
Ethan said,
This place has done that for me.
For me too.
Leela admitted. The cafe reopened a few weeks later, brighter and fresher than before. Customers returned, but Leela noticed something had shifted in her heart. She felt lighter, as if the river had carried some of her sadness away. Ethan began to stay longer each day. He started bringing his notebook, filling its pages with sketches and quiet thoughts. Leela sometimes left little drawings on his table. Flowers, stars, or the river. One day, Ethan left her a note.
The bridge isn't just a place. It's you. You've carried my burdens more than you know.
As winter arrived, the river froze over, turning the town into a quiet, white wonderland. Ethan and Leela often walked along the riverbank after the cafe closed, their footsteps crunching softly in the snow. On one such walk, Ethan stopped and looked at the frozen water.
I've been holding on to Clara for so long.
He said,
I thought letting go would mean losing her forever. But now I think it's time.
Leela didn't say anything, but she reached out and took his hand. Ethan smiled at her.
Thank you, Leela. You've given me something I thought I'd never find again. Hope.
Spring came early that year. The river thawed, and flowers bloomed along the banks. Leela's cafe was busier than ever, but she always saved Ethan's table for him. One evening, as the sun set over the water, Ethan placed a small box on the table in front of Leela.
What's this?
She asked, curious. Ethan smiled.
Open it.
Inside was a key.
I've bought a small workshop near the cafe.
He said,
I want to stay. I want to see what we could become.
Leela's heart swelled with a feeling she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Love.
I'd like that.
She said, her voice barely a whisper. The cafe on the bridge became more than just a place for tea and coffee. It became a symbol of healing, of hope, and of love. Ethan and Leela didn't rush their journey. They continued to meet every day, sharing small moments and quiet smiles. The river flowed beneath them, carrying the past away and bringing new beginnings with it. And so, two hearts, once burdened by loss, found peace together on the bridge of quiet hearts.